Curly Howard, born Jerome Lester Horwitz on October 22, 1903, in Brooklyn, New York, grew up in a hardworking Jewish family where survival often came before self-expression. Quiet and shy by nature, he was very different from his more assertive brothers, especially Mo. Yet, even at a young age, Jerome showed a remarkable ability to make people laugh without trying. He wasn't loud, polished, or trained, but his instincts were extraordinary. Comedy came naturally to him, rooted in movement, expression, and timing rather than words. Offstage, he was reserved and sensitive, often insecure about his place in the world. On stage, however, he transformed completely. That contrast would define his life. The boy who struggled to be noticed became a performer audiences couldn't look away from. Long before fame found him, Curly was already shaping a style that felt spontaneous, innocent, and deeply human. Finding his place in comedy. Before joining the Three Stooges, Curly lived an uncertain life filled with odd jobs and small performance opportunities. He worked as a projectionist, tried his hand at music, and appeared in minor stage productions, absorbing comedy through observation rather than formal study. Unlike trained actors, Curly learned by watching people, studying reactions, and trusting his instincts. His comedy wasn't rehearsed in the traditional sense, it was felt. When Moe and Ted Healy invited him to replace Shemp in 1932, Curly hesitated. At the time, he had hair, a mustache, and little confidence. Shaving his head felt humiliating, but he agreed. That single decision changed everything. The bald look, paired with exaggerated expressions and a childlike voice, unlocked something powerful. Curly didn't just perform jokes, he embodied them. The audience didn't laugh at him, they laughed with him. The golden years of the Three Stooges. From 1934 to 1946, Curly Howard became the emotional engine of the Three Stooges during their most successful years at Columbia Pictures. Appearing in nearly 100 short films, he brought a level of physical comedy that felt effortless but demanded immense energy. His movements were elastic, unpredictable, and perfectly timed. Films like Punch Drunks, Disorder in the Court, and A Plumbing. We Will Go showcased Curly at his peak, blending innocence with chaos. He wasn't just funny, he was magnetic. Audiences responded to his vulnerability, his confusion, and his joy. Curly made failure lovable. Behind the scenes, though, the workload was relentless. Short films were produced quickly with little rest. Curly carried the most physically demanding role, absorbing hits, falls, and exhaustion. What looked carefree on screen required constant strain off it, a complicated personal life. Away from the camera, Curly struggled to find stability. His personal relationships were often intense, brief, and emotionally draining. He longed for affection and reassurance, but lacked the tools to sustain long-term balance. His early marriages ended quickly, leaving him discouraged and uncertain. Even during happier moments, such as the birth of his children, Curly found it difficult to reconcile family life with the pressures of fame. Touring schedules, filming demands, and personal insecurity created distance he didn't know how to bridge. Unlike his confident on-screen persona, the real Curly was deeply sensitive and easily wounded. He wanted to be loved, not admired. Each failed relationship chipped away at his sense of self, reinforcing the idea that while audiences adored him, true stability always seemed just out of reach. Fame, exhaustion, and coping mechanisms. As fame grew, so did Curly's exhaustion. The physical demands of slapstick comedy were unforgiving, and Curly rarely allowed himself proper rest. During wartime tours, the Stooges performed tirelessly for troops, often multiple shows a day. Curly gave everything he had, even when his body struggled to keep up. When performances ended, he sought escape rather than recovery. Food, nightlife, and indulgence became ways to quiet his anxiety and loneliness. These habits weren't signs of recklessness so much as attempts to cope in an era that offered little understanding or support. Mental and emotional well-being simply weren't discussed. Curly was expected to perform, smile, and repeat the magic, no matter the cost. The gap between who he was and who the world expected him to be grew wider with every year. Financial struggles and family support. Despite earning a strong income, Curly had little sense of financial planning. Money came quickly and left just as fast. He spent generously on others, often impulsively, driven by emotion rather than logic. This pattern worried those closest to him, especially Mo. Acting not only as a brother but a protector, Mo stepped in to help manage Curly's finances. He organized budgets, handled taxes, and tried to create stability where Curly couldn't. This wasn't control, it was care. Behind their rough on-screen chemistry was a deep bond rooted in loyalty and concern. Mo understood that Curly needed guidance, not judgment. Their relationship reflected the larger truth of Curly's life. Behind the laughter was someone who needed support more than applause, a gentle love for animals. One of Curly Howard's most endearing qualities was his deep affection for animals, particularly dogs. They offered him something people often couldn't: unconditional companionship. While traveling, Curly frequently adopted strays, feeding them and refusing to abandon them. He found comfort in their loyalty and simplicity. Dogs didn't demand explanations or performances. With them, Curly could simply be. At home, his pets provided a sense of peace rarely found elsewhere in his life. This tenderness revealed a side of Curly audiences never saw, a nurturing, protective presence shaped by empathy rather than comedy. In many ways, his love for animals reflected his own vulnerability. Like them, Curly wanted safety, affection, and a place to belong. Decline and final performances. By the mid-1940s, Curly's health was visibly declining. Fatigue slowed his movements, and concentration became difficult. During the filming of Half-Wit's Holiday in 1946, he suffered a serious medical event that ended his career as a full-time stooge. The moment was quiet but devastating. The man who once dominated the screen with explosive energy now struggled to speak and move. Though he attempted a brief cameo in Hold That Lion in 1947, it was clear the era had passed. His decline wasn't sudden. It was the result of years of strain, pressure, and neglect in a system that valued output over well-being. Curly wasn't replaced. He was lost. Final years and lasting love. In his final years, Curly lived a quieter life, supported by family and his last wife, Valerie Newman. Their marriage provided the stability he had always searched for. Though his health continued to limit him, he found comfort in routine, companionship, and fatherhood once more. Fame faded, but the man remained. Curly passed away in January 1952 at just 48 years old. His death was reported respectfully, but without the recognition his impact deserved. For many, he was already a memory. Yet for those who understood his contribution, Curly's absence left a profound silence. He had given everything he had to make people laugh, even when laughter was the hardest thing for him to find. Remembering Curly Howard. Honestly, today, Curly Howard is remembered as more than a clown or caricature. He was an artist driven by instinct, vulnerability, and heart. His story reminds us that joy often comes from fragile places. Curly didn't hide pain to deceive. He transformed it into something generous. Understanding his life doesn't diminish his legacy, it deepens it. He wasn't weak for struggling, nor tragic for needing help. He was human. The laughter he created still echoes because it was real, born from sincerity rather than polish. Remembering Curly honestly means honoring both the brilliance and the cost. He made the world laugh, and that gift deserves respect, compassion, and remembrance far beyond the final punchline.